screen share so I can see who's here. Thank you. Just waiting for one other board member, I guess.
Dr. Wells. I don't see him here yet.
All right, I think we have 5 board members here plus our student board members. All right, could we will start open session for Tuesday, February 8th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Student trustee Dana?
Here.
Student trustee Lyra?
Here.
Trustee Boyd?
Here.
Trustee Davidson?
Here.
Trustee Doss?
Here.
Vice President Duran?
Here.
President Hinckley?
Here.
Superintendent Wells?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those who wish can join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have our mission and vision statement and meeting norms read, please?
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Our meeting norms are as follows. 1, maintain a focus on what is best for our students. 2, ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. 3, endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs and what is best for students. And 4, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. During closed session tonight, the board, following a hearing on a recommendation for expulsion in the student matter 2021-22-01, 613, the board voted 5-0 with no abstentions not to expel the student. We now need a motion to approve our agenda for the evening.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I second.
Student trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student trustee Lyra?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Vice President Duran?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Thanks.
And now we have the consent calendar, either questions about items or a motion to approve our consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mouth tonight. Student trustee Dana,
Yes.
student trustee Lira,
Yes.
trustee Das,
Yes.
vice president Durham,
Yes.
president Hinckley,
Yes.
trustee Boyd,
Yes.
trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. The consent calendar is passed unanimously, and we move to superintendent and board member reports, starting with Superintendent Wells.
Great. My report will be up on the screen momentarily. And it's brief, really brief. I will not be long-winded tonight. I just want to cover a couple of items, a few updates to make the board and community aware. We've been waiting to hear from our students about how we should spend our resources. What are the priorities from our students' perspective? We have the results in, and they will be revealed to you in the upcoming week. So I'm excited about that, to hear from our students, our middle and high school mainly, and it's quite informative. So we're happy about that qualitative feedback. Mental health spaces. Our last board meeting, we had a mental health presentation. We heard a lot about what's going on. We heard a lot of what we call grows, things that we do, things that holes we need to fill, and we heard a lot of our glows, things that are working well. One of the biggest things that stood out was that we needed space immediately to expand our services at the high school. We were able to do that and get creative and find additional spaces to serve more students. I'm happy to report again that is up and running. It will be up and running soon. And we can service a lot more students. So we're happy about that. That's item number 2. And item number 3, our final item, is our mental health and social emotional learning, a response to some recommendations. I'm proposing that in the immediate future, we bring back an update around what we're doing specifically as it relates to the recommendations that we received from our mental health folks. I think that's important. We don't want to get in any habits where we present what's happening, recommendations, and then we move from them to never see how the district responded. And I think it's important that we do that. So I want to let the board know and the community know that that will be circling back because that's part of the process we're engaging is as we look at a process for continuous improvement in key areas in our district. That concludes the superintendent report tonight, Madam Chair, President Hinckley.
Thank you. I know we're running a little bit behind, so I will speed through a very short report on a few things I just wanted to highlight. One is I'm continually amazed at just everything that our family volunteers are doing on our campuses. I hope many of you have seen pictures of the new AMS staff room that families helped fundraise for, decorate, repaint, etc. And, you know, just all of the teacher breakfasts and staff breakfasts and lunches that folks are doing. It's just incredible. In addition to all the people that work on committees, it's just really inspiring to see how much everyone has figured out how to participate, especially since we can't just hang out on school campuses like we used to. And I wanted to make a plug for one volunteer activity, which is we still are looking for people to volunteer to get trained to help out in our kitchens, just to keep our food service running. So you saw an announcement in the Friday update or the Friday newsletter And we really hope that you can share that out with people that might be able to help out during the day when we have needs in the food service department. And then lastly, I finally got to live out one of my dreams, which is to be a volunteer with the Writer Coach Connection program, which if you don't know about is just phenomenal. And so I've been getting to spend several hours each week with our middle school students on their iSearch projects. And it's just amazing to see what we're offering our students. And I really encourage you to learn more about that program and support it in whatever way you can. It's really fun to see the middle schoolers. It's still on Zoom, but to see them in the library working on those projects and just see how they're developing as students and thinkers, and can't highlight enough the amazing work that program is doing and that our teachers are doing to connect our students with it. So that's my report. And I will pass it to Vice President Duran.
I'll just quickly report for Trustee Davidson and I, along with Dr. Chin, who is running the policy committee, that we are starting to work on the equity policy, or I know the board is really looking forward to getting a final product, but there are several steps, of course, we're going through. So just wanted to let the board know that we're going to be working on it.
Thank you. Trustee Das.
No report for me this evening. I hope everyone continues to celebrate Black History Month in solidarity.
Thank you. Trustee Boyd.
No report for me. Wish everybody well.
Trustee Davidson.
No report for me either.
And student board members.
Yeah, so just generally, Valentine's Day is coming up and a lot of students are really excited about it. I know at the elementary level, sometimes that can look like handing out Valentine's cards and stuff among classes, and I always find that really adorable. And then also at the middle and high school, choir students are currently selling Valentine's grams at lunch. And so I'd really encourage, if you have students at either of those schools, to consider sending a couple of dollars along with them so that they can buy Valentine's grams for their friends and support the vocal music department. And then I think Ishchaka had an update with the SAC.
Yeah, we just had a really short update this time around, and for the Student Advocacy Committee, also very short and sweet. Essentially, our two biggest updates from our previous meeting was that we recently elected our vice chair and our secretary. So elections were held via secret ballot, and our vice chair was Ethan Walsh, and then our secretary is Harsha Ramesh. So we are currently also in the works of drafting plans to also visit the other school sites in the spring, and it'll be some sort of community building activity that the SAC is interested in hosting, and getting to know the different students from the different school sites, as well as getting feedback from them, or just getting to know them more as individuals.
Great, thank you. I also did see that next week the district will be having the Black History Month event next Wednesday at 5 p.m. In person at the middle school. So I guess we'll have one more board meeting to announce that at, but hopefully everyone will join us for that. It's a really, really amazing event, and last year was virtual, and it'll be great to see it in person again. All right. So now we have public comment for persons to address the board on matters not on our agenda. And I see one public comment or two. The first one from Jeremiah.
Hi, good evening. Yep, it's me, Jeremiah. Just making my public comment. I was at the Berkeley Food Network today, spending some time there, and we're going over a few things. And every other Friday, the food donation situation in the cafeteria, I'm going to be working with Nate, hopefully setting all that up. He was there last week and the week before, so that seems to be going really well. So I've made a commitment for that, and also I was wondering if any teachers had got a raise yet, because teachers are doing such a great job, and I was just wondering if they got a raise. Also, I was wondering how many schools are actually in Albany, because I know there's St. Mary's, and I know, when I was in high school, there was I think it was Aerosmith Academy, but there's all these schools in Albany, and I was just wondering if they're part of the district. Is St. Mary's is part of Albany Unified School District? I was just kind of wondering. That's all. And also, I'm looking at my notes. I have when the school zones come up, it's going to be coming up in planning and zoning, or traffic and safety, transportation. And it's been about 10 years, work in progress. I've been trying to get the city to adopt school zones in the municipal code book. Basically, it's safer speeds around the schools. And also, I want to say, hey, has anybody heard about the Maryland crossing guard who saved a kid's life? That's exactly why we want school zones and more crossing guards. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Next is Sierra.
Good evening, school board members. I'm here tonight to comment about Seth's Law. I'm the parent of a 5th grade transgendered boy who was recently bullied by another child during lunchtime at school. At a table full of children, my child was repeatedly and intentionally misgendered and called by his dead name. The incident was reported to the principal, who addressed the matter with both children's teachers, and the parents of the other child. However, I was never notified by the school. I learned of the incident over a week later when my child showed me the apology note that was written to him. When I went to the Albany Unified School District website to learn about the anti-bullying and harassment policies in place, I was alarmed to not find any information. Seth's Law, titled California Assembly Bill AB 9, became effective under Governor Jerry Brown as of July 1st, 2012, with the aims of reinforcing and expanding the Safe Place to Learn Act in order to create a safer, more inclusive environment for California public school students. Seth's Law requires public schools in California to update their anti-bullying policies and programs, and focuses on protecting students who are bullied based on their actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, as well as race, ethnicity, nationality, gender disability, and religion. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go on to say that the Albany Unified School District must make a clear, definitive, and public zero-tolerance stance against bullying and harassment. The California Department of Education purposely sends out memos to school districts notifying them of the requirements to adapt and enforce the provisions found in this law. Please do better, children.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just for the record, staff will look into this further and circle back. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Sorry, looking at public comment. All right, the third commenter disappeared. So now we move to our first agenda item, which is our staff report, 10A, AUSD COVID-19 protocols and progress update from Director Ritchie.
Great. Thank you, President Hinckley. Thank you all for being here. What I'd like to do is give the community an update. The two specific areas that I wanted to focus on today would be some of the more recent vaccination rates, as well as pool participation rates. And then I'd like to take a closer look at our positive dashboard, our positive case dashboard. Thank you. As you all know, we are actively reaching out to ask both vaccinated and unvaccinated students to participate in what's called pooled testing. Pooled testing occurs weekly. Each of the school sites does participate in pooled testing. There's a variety of students who do participate. In fact, just this week, we are focusing in at the middle school on our student athletes, as well as our music, our instrumental and our vocal music programs, making sure that those students are in the pool. What we do have is a breakdown of the high school. Albany High and McGregor High have 600 students participating in the pool weekly. That is 57%, again, of their student body who participates. The middle school is at 58%. Ocean View, we have 85% of their entire student body participating in weekly testing. Marin has 96%, and Cornell rounds us out with 85%. Again, those are the percentages of students who are participating in weekly testing, and those include vaccinated as well as unvaccinated students. We thank you for your participation. We also want to give you the latest information on our vaccination status. This is effective as of last week, which was Friday the 4th. So numbers might be up slightly, but again, this is where we were before we broke for the weekend. At the Albany High School, McGregor High School campus, we are proud to say that we have verified 96% of our students have been vaccinated. At the middle school, we have 87%. Ocean View has 68%. Marin 77%, and Cornell 78%. Again, those are the percentages of students who have submitted their vaccination status. There are also students, please recall, who have requested to opt into weekly testing because they are not vaccinated. We honor that. And again, these are the percentages of the students that have reported, and we have verified their vaccination status. Again, I'd like to take a little deeper look into our dashboard. One of the things that many districts do, as well as our district does, is we really want to make sure that that communication around positive cases is available to the community. We know that we have staff members, we have community parents, families who routinely watch the dashboard in terms of trends, in terms of impact to their own family, to their own classrooms. And so it's important for us to do our due diligence with this dashboard, a dashboard that we have actually been maintaining since July of 2020. We have well over 350 cases, I believe, represented on the dashboard again from July 2020. We've learned a lot. We've received feedback. So I wanted to make sure that the community is aware that we are listening to the feedback around this dashboard, and we would like to propose some adjustments and some partner pieces to make this communication clear and as relevant as possible. And I want to thank Vice President Duran for requesting that we bring some samples of dashboard models. So we surveyed other districts and their COVID dashboards, and it did reveal that most districts are using a weekly or monthly total. They do update it daily, but you'll see that they report out weekly or monthly. Weekly or monthly cases can be updated daily and should be updated daily and do provide then these cumulative totals. And I'll show you an example in my next slide. These charts can make it easier to see the total number of cases per school, per week, or per month. And again, most people are looking at the dashboard. They want to see the information organized by school. So we would like to improve our own dashboard communication by moving to a new blended model. This model is going to be demonstrated live. In fact, this model is currently being tested on our website under our COVID dashboard page. This is just a snapshot. This is not the live portal. I will certainly link us to that briefly. But this is the idea. as you break down the separate sites, what you are doing is every day you are updating the number of students and the number of staff members who report positive cases to the school site liaisons and then to myself as the district liaison. So the numbers are the same as the daily report that we have been, again, maintaining since July of 2020. But this companion does break it down into maybe a clearer picture in terms of how many cases per site and what do the trends look like. Again, this is information that is valid. You can see then we have really gone back and we've started to look at the trends. And this model of a dashboard was very helpful in us looking at the trends, meaning if you notice the week after the break, we did have quite a number of cases, 82 it looks like for that entire population that week. And we are happy to report that we are seeing our numbers decrease as the weeks of January go on. So that's one model we've been experimenting with and as a companion to our own dashboard. This is what it might look like if you are breaking it down by month. So by month, some other dashboards do break it down by month. We are proposing to break it down by week. But this is what it might look like if you were to break the numbers down by month. And again, you can see those trends as we went back to the summer, very few cases. And as we moved closer to January, the cases did certainly increase. There was a request to provide some information to break this down even further by grade level. And I did want to show you the complexity, though, of a model that would include grade level broken down by weeks. I think that this is a little, let's say, confusing to navigate, but this is the same information, i.e. the schools and the grade levels, again, broken down with more simplistic data and broken down by grade level. What we are doing is our live dashboard. And this does then tell you what we're experimenting with, but as a companion piece to our more traditional dashboard. So our proposal is to keep these two, again, as kind of partner pieces in that communication out with our community in terms of where are the positive cases. You'll notice that our traditional dashboard, all cases, staff, and students, it is updated daily. It is very specific about the school, the number of classrooms that are impacted, the grade levels that are impacted, how many students and staff members were confirmed, and what actions were taken as a result of that notification. So again, what you are looking at now are the companion pieces, our positive case rates presented as weekly trends, as well as our positive case rates being reported as specific data entries. And that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you.
I had a question about the vaccination data, because in previous presentations, you had a different table that showed us the number enrolled, number vaccinated, number testing, and then the number we hadn't gotten a response from. And I'm wondering if you can show us that currently instead of just so that the board still has an understanding of that whole breakdown. Is that something that you can share with us?
I can certainly put that
tonight
together for next week's staff report. I'll have to ask you to repeat what you're looking for in that data point. We presented the total vaccination status just with pool testing, but if you're asking for me to break down in terms of who's vaccinated and who's being tested weekly and who hasn't responded, we did present that data previously, and I can certainly present that again. Tonight, we just wanted to show you how many students we have verified vaccination status for.
Oh, okay. I guess one of the reasons I was asking is that the last time you presented it, there were about 20% of Ocean View that we hadn't heard from, but then it looks like only it looks like 85% are being tested monthly. So I think it would be helpful for the board to continue in these presentations to get that clear update of what's the number of students at each campus that are neither vaccinated or testing. And I know that we got a communication from the district office that our vaccine or test mandate is not something we're able to enforce right now, but I think it still would be helpful for us to be able to see the data on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Good. No, I understand the question. I'll certainly present that information at my next staff report. The good news is, and the reality is, we do have some families who opted into pool testing. And then when the request went out to mail in your verification of vaccination, perhaps there was some sort of disconnect. And so we are happy to report, that, our elementary schools are testing at least 85% of their population. That 15%, then that might be something I can take a look at, and why that 15% is, what constitutes them not being in the pool testing. Doesn't mean that they're unvaccinated and they're being tested by, remember, we're using color PCR for them as well. Do we still have some non-responders? We were getting very close to zero on non-responders for some of our elementary schools. And so I can come back and perhaps really hone in on the percentage of students who are not participating in testing and why they're not.
Okay, yeah, that would be really great, because I think the last data the board got, there were still about 250 elementary students that hadn't responded. So if that number has dropped significantly, it would be great for us to see that.
Absolutely, and it has. We did probably the 10th or 11th iteration of reach out. We actually had a clerical staff member who was fluent in 4 different languages, be able to navigate Aries and go down to maybe the 2nd or 3rd phone number that they could reach out to. And she did a remarkable job of reducing all of those numbers. And I think she completed that last week. And so you're right, the numbers went down by specific effort.
Okay, great. All right, board, other questions about the presentation? Yeah, Trustee Davidson.
So it's not directly about the presentation, but it's about our COVID protocols and our progress. And I'm not sure how else to get it on here or ask it, because I know it's been asked and we've asked to put it on agendas and ask questions about it. But I would really like us to take a look at our outdoor masking. Other surrounding districts are doing this. It's not a state or county stipulation that we have our kids masked outside. So I'd really like to get that on our agenda or discuss it sooner rather than later. And I can say more about that all, but I don't want to be out of line because it's not specifically on the agenda, but it is related to COVID.
Maybe that's a question for Director Ritchie, just about whether that's something that staff are considering at this time.
I would like to say that we are certainly exploring it and would defer to Dr. Wells in terms of next steps for our district for outdoor masking.
Yeah, I think I heard from a couple board members. We have certainly explored it. We certainly have it on the horizon. A lot of school districts, a lot of folks are starting to move in that direction. Some doing it a little faster than others. And my understanding at the end, when we talk about updated items on the agenda, one of the board members will recommend we agendize that and we can get into it a bit deeper in terms of the process. But one of the things we're looking at that should be coming up soon is no mask during PE. We think kind of phasing it in that way and having more discussion about a criteria we'll use to not have outdoor masking when and where. So it's going to be a whole process that we will undertake, and more to come in the immediate future. And hopefully at our next board meeting, if we have an agenda, as I anticipate, we can get into it a bit deeper and hear from our board their ideas, and also have updated data. And then by then we would know what our county is doing and what stand they're taking in terms of where folks are going, what they're doing. Because right now we don't need updated guidelines for no mask outside. Every district is different, and every district have their own readiness, if you will. But we will want to have a criteria that's more black and white, so that it's not based on how we feel. And so we're starting to have that kind of conversation. And so I really appreciate the question, Trustee Davidson.
Yeah, can I just follow up really quickly? We asked for this to be agendized at a previous meeting, and that didn't happen. So I'm concerned that just asking for it to be agendized might not get it to happen. And I'm also concerned there it doesn't seem like there was criteria, because I've asked on multiple occasions for putting this, going above and beyond on this one. So I would really like us to be, careful about the criteria we set for going above and beyond on this one element, and why we feel that we need to do that. If it's a safety issue, then I completely understand that we need to keep kids safe and they have to be masked outside. If it's a feasibility issue, that's surmountable. We can come up with feasible ways to let our kids remove their masks outside. And I am happy to wait to have this, but I am very concerned that if we just say at the end of the meeting, we're going to agendize it to another, and then we have to wait 1 or 2 meetings because our next meeting is pretty full and this is a big discussion, then we're waiting another few weeks. And our kids have given up a lot. They've done a lot. And so places where we can give them back something, I feel like is really critically important, especially if it is not absolutely critical to their safety to have these measures in place. We should be looking at them quickly, efficiently, and reasonably for what we can do to give our kids these areas. This is about the kids. This is not about, is it easy to take them on and off? Do we think it's good or not? What can we do for our kids that can give them back this sense of normalcy as things are getting safer? I mean, I'm looking at our COVID rates and they are really dropping. And I, brought this up before the break in a committee and asked the question and said, that's fine, there's going to be a break. People are going to travel. I totally get it. But if we keep waiting and say, well, there's going to be a February break, but then there'll be a spring break, then there'll be summer break. So I think we need to look at some other criteria and ways here. And I would really just urge the district staff to, look at ways that we can give kids back places to be more comfortable and more normal. And of course, it'll be an option for any child or family that wants their kid to wear their mask outside to do that. But it will also just help these kids to feel like what they've done has accomplished something and that there is a benefit to it.
So I do just we did have a conversation, I think at one of our last board meetings, about putting this on an agenda, because if we just have a full blown discussion now, the public doesn't have the awareness that we're having that discussion. So I do want to caution us into getting into a lot of back and forth about it. It wasn't part of the presentation, but we actually don't have a very impacted meeting next week yet. And so what we had discussed was this could be a review and discussion item at a future meeting that would require something in the agenda that makes clear to the public that would be one of the substantive things we would discuss. So I know that there are multiple board members who would like to see that appear on an agenda soon. Other questions for Executive Director Ritchie? Yeah, Vice President Duran.
I just want to say that I support what Trustee Davidson was referring to in terms of masks coming off outside. But like you said, that's another discussion for another day. Executive Director Ritchie, do you by any chance have numbers of when so many of the students are getting pool tested, right? And I'm wondering, when we get a positive results back and you know who the students are you then also able to know if these are breakthrough cases, meaning the vaccinated kids, or are they majority unvaccinated? Are you able to provide that kind of data to us?
That would take some research. I can certainly tell you that it's not all or nothing, that there have been breakthrough cases after, trying to rapid test the positive pool individuals. There have also been instances where we just could not identify who was positive in the rapid testing afterwards, everybody was negative. And so we're looking closely at certain issues. For example, we're certainly learning our lesson in terms of not testing in the pool students who already have been tested positive within the last 90 days. We think that that was some of our issues. And so we've been able to go back and really start to identify how to conduct pool testing so that we're not coming up with some, false positives or doing some work that we've already done since we know that student was positive. But you ask a good question. I'd have to dig a little deeper in terms of who is actually reporting a positive case, whether they're the unvaccinated students or the vaccinated students. And I make sure I have correct data.
And my other question is about the testing that we are doing. We are definitely going beyond the county and state guidelines, are we not, for the students that were testing, especially given that 96% of our students at AHS and all the other numbers are great, and so the fact that we're testing vaccinated kids, are there some downsides to that?
I'll answer that as I think the glass could be half full or half empty with my answer to you, because we are going above and beyond what it means to test weekly in a cadence that's required. However, there is a new guidance recommendation that we could follow called group contact tracing. And if we wanted to go in that direction, then the recommendation is to basically just test everybody in the school. So setting up pools or setting up systems where you have everybody being tested weekly, by definition, is something you can do if you're approaching the group contact tracing. So we're not there yet, but we are approaching that threshold where we could actually say that we're group contact tracing. But for right now, we are still using the modified quarantine guidance. And with that, we are happy then to, again, just make sure that we're following our due diligence with everybody, again, the vaccinated students and the unvaccinated students, especially those that need testing under modified quarantine, since that's something that we're still using.
Trustee Doss.
Yeah, so, well, first I had a comment. I remember like when we first kind of started this whole thing and dived into all of this, and there was a lot of information and it was coming from a lot of different directions, and it was really hard to kind of put it all into one place and really understand where we were at and where we were going and different things like that. And I just have to say that since Director Ritchie kind of took this on and has been spearheading this whole thing, it's been a lot easier to understand and really, kind of put it all in one place. And I think that helps us make decisions more informatively that really benefit our students. And I think that everybody plays a role, but her leadership in this has really allowed for schools to be open and to remain open safely. And I just wanted to take a moment to really call that out, because that is not a small feat. There are schools and classrooms closing all over around us, all over the country. And that's not happening here. And I think that that's due in large part to our director. So I wanted to really take a moment to call that out. My only question is around testing following the upcoming break that we have, with rapid tests being harder and harder to come by. Is there anything that we can do as a district or any plans that we have in order to help families obtain testing so that they know the status of their students before sending them back after the upcoming break?
Well, thank you, Trustee Doss, first for your kind words. I do want to respond that it's a team effort. And just to give you a sample of how busy my team was in January, we did a count, and rapid tests alone And rapid test, again, can be the result of a positive pool, can be the result of vaccinated students being exposed, and so you'd like to know their status. But just in the month of January alone, 2,600 rapid tests were given at all of our school sites. And I definitely needed my team there, and they absolutely demonstrated above and beyond what I could ask them to do as a capacity point for January. So January was a very busy month, but that is for us, not me alone, to take the credit for. So thank you for that feedback. The other piece about testing after the break, I know I'm also working with our communications lead, Kim Trutain, to make sure that the travel recommendations, the travel guidance is as up to date as possible and sent out to all of the school sites. We do have, thanks to Dr. Wells, a limited number of those rapid tests still that we could certainly distribute to our school sites, so that families do have at least the capability to request one to see if we do have an inventory that would allow them to take one home before the break. I did actually just put in an order for a number of those rapid tests. We purchased them. They think that they might be coming right around the break. We hope to get them before, but we can't promise. And so we're going to make sure that they're available, for example, for the April break, or at least after the break, when anybody who requests one can certainly have access to those. We also want to remind families, and I think you brought this up as well, Trustee Doss, that there is some federal programs still. They're working out some of the logistical bugs of trying to get your kits mailed to your particular address. And so we want to make sure that our family members know all of the routes to get some tests, including the limited quantities that we also have to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board questions before I move to public comment? All right. We start our timer. I will start with Chris.
Thank you for the chance to speak tonight. I want to thank the district for its thoughtful leadership, guiding our students and staff through the Omicron surge. We're so thankful that the surge is receding, and we have recently sent our oldest child back to in-person school from long-term independent study, and we're so happy that that's going so well. And there certainly is hope that we're putting this pandemic behind us. However, I encourage the board and district leadership not to move too quickly to reduce the safeguards that have been keeping transmission down. I realize that certain protocols are no longer state or various county mandates, but we are only weeks away from midwinter break, and if we are to learn anything from the holiday break, is that caution is the path to keep our schools safe. The receding surge is not because the transmissibility of Omicron is not diminished. Rather, people have stopped getting together and traveling, and midwinter break activities will only reignite the transmission of the virus and put our most vulnerable community members at risk. I find it very confusing to hear other concerns about delays to changes in protocols due to upcoming holiday breaks. I mean, if there was no surge over the previous holiday break, I could understand the sentiment more clearly. But given the way the cases surged after the recent break, it seems premature to make changes to protocols with at least one break where we don't have a massive surge in cases. Changing the protocols before we have that evidence and that it doesn't result in a large number of cases seems like kind of hope-based decision-making, and I'm concerned. I humbly request that the board refrains from weakening the mask mandates outside, that we continue testing and other protocols that can keep our communities safe. Let's not give into the pandemic fatigue at this point. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Emily.
Hi there. I am just sharing a purely anecdotal observation. That's all it is. As a teacher at the high school, and my classroom is outdoors next to the pool. So I'm with Monday through Friday, all of my high school kids, 150 a week, plus the Marin, the actually really like joyful sounds of the Marin kids every day, Monday through Friday as well. And I have my own 4 kids, kindergarten through 6th grade. And I just wanted to say, while I appreciate the idea that we will unmask at some point and we will have sound metrics, and this makes a lot of sense, that, you know, our lives will continue on in an endemic phase at some point, I want to tell you that in terms of the hardship to children, and I recognize if you're in speech therapy or if there's certain things, right? But what I see every day is joyful kids in their masks, not really caring, to be honest with you. They're happy, they're playing, they're running around, they're laughing. You can even tell, it's so funny. We joke in the classroom, like, you can tell we're laughing because our eyebrows are raised and whatever. I mean, I mean, we're indoors, but I just want to say that I don't want anybody to overblow the idea that children outdoors masked is a detrimental harm. And I agree that at some point we'll need to talk about it, but I think that we should be really reasonable. And I appreciate very much the comments of the person prior in having vacations coming up and in understanding gratefully that we're coming down from a surge, but we're still, I heard today, where we were on Christmas Day, which is where we were on an uptick, right? So we're still high, we're coming down. Let's keep coming down. Let's keep doing a good job and not get too rushed in this way where I think, honestly, guys, the kids are all right. Let's show them that they're all right. Let's all together show them that they're all right and we're all right with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian.
Yeah, hi. I just kind of wanted to echo, I think what both of the previous speakers were saying. I heard one of the board members say that it felt to her like removing the mask policy, the outdoor masks now, would be a kind of gift to the kids. But I don't think our job is necessarily to give kids little gifts like that. I think our job is to teach them things, you know, and right now, thousands of people a day are still dying from COVID. We're not in the endemic state yet. And what we need to do is teach them that this is a way we have of taking care of each other, trying to be cautious and careful and safety oriented. And that lesson is one that we can continue to teach them by not kind of quickly moving away from these safety measures that are working, that are helpful. And I think we have to be a little bit careful about what we would be teaching our kids if we ask them to kind of take their masks off and pretend that, you know, things are better now, when actually the numbers are such that we're not there yet. We will be, but we have to be careful what we teach our kids in moving too quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Zoom technical issues. Next is Jeremiah.
Hi, good evening. This is Jeremiah. I was just wondering, you know, our supply in masks, and hopefully we have a steady supply. You know, and I agree with a few of the last commenters, you know, not to lower any safety standards, even though the government is, you know, saying not to wear masks. I think it's a great idea to, you know, keep our high standards. Although, yeah, I'm sure it's been tough getting kids to wear them. I could only imagine what it's like in the elementary schools or just all the schools in general, trying to get kids to wear masks. You know, even though COVID goes away, I think masks still protect us from, you know, the common cold or other, not diseases, but other bacteria, forms of bacteria or viruses. So I hope that a lot of these cleaning protocols, we've set standards to clean the school equipment, you know, the desks and the chairs. I hope all that is, you know, we stay with that for years to come, and I hope we can budget for that. I mean, I remember a few summers I would volunteer and help clean all the desks at Cornell school with the custodian, right, in the summertime.
So we clean every single desk, but that was just in the summertime, once a year. We only used to clean the desk once a year. I'm sure we clean them a lot more now. And I would suggest cleaning underneath the desks. I remember in Albany High School, there was a lot of gum and a lot of just disgusting stuff underneath the desk. So maybe we could check underneath the desk and keep those clean. Something to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonas.
Hi, it's Sarah Bly, and I just want to say I'm going to break with the rest of the people who've said that everything's going great and the kids are all right, because I watched the mental health presentation 2 times ago. I don't think the kids are all right. I don't necessarily think it's because they're masking, but I do think there's a lot of pressure on kids right now. And I don't think anybody suggested it's a treat to take a mask off. I think they're suggesting that outdoor transmission is not considered scientifically something that happens. And that at this point, we have people unmasking indoors in California, and we're not even talking about it with kids. And so do I think this conversation is happening too fast? No. How can we possibly say that? Anyone who's watched school reopenings knows that the conversation has to start somewhere. It doesn't mean that the action is going to happen right afterward. It means the conversation has to start. And so I applaud you for starting this conversation and for having a rigorous discussion about it. And I support us doing what we come to the conclusion is safe and best for kids. And so I thank you for bringing it to the agenda. And I know that just because it's on the agenda does not mean in any way it's going to happen the day after. I think we all know that. So thank you. And I look forward to that discussion.
Thank you. Matthew.
Hi there. I had a quick question and I missed part of the discussion earlier, so I apologize if this was already covered. But one thing I noticed before the holiday break last year, late last year, was an email urging parents to get tested before their children return to school went out extremely late and not in a repeated and urgent manner. So I think that email could have been easily missed. And I was wondering if the district has a plan to remind parents maybe multiple times from multiple sources about testing before returning to school, and sending out that email early and often and with sort of the high level urgency that would get parents' attention and as many parents as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. We did talk a little bit about the supply of testing, but after the public comment, we can get that question answered. All right, Jonas. You might be muted. Oh, that's the other one. Sorry. Mariam. You might be muted, Mariam.
Sorry, now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the lively discussion. I don't think that there's no scientific basis for outdoor transmission. If kids' faces are really close together, they can cough, sneeze, droplets can still be a way of transmitting virus. So if we are going to seriously consider this, we have to think of ways, how do we keep the little ones spaced apart? Can we keep little ones spaced apart? I have a kindergartner. I don't know how to keep her spaced apart on her play dates. So that's part of the discussion. Also, we're still in a time when kids 4 years old and under don't have access to vaccines yet. There's still a lot of vulnerable students, older folks, people with pre-existing conditions. I would hope that as a community that we are teaching our children the value of protecting our community. I think children's mental health matters tremendously, and I don't think that the masks are what is causing the harm. I think it's this pandemic, and we're all slogging through this together, and it's really hard. But I just think we have to be really thoughtful about how to unmask outdoors. How do we keep kids safely distanced so that they're not transmitting to one another, especially the little ones? Thank you.
Thank you. Yolanda.
Thank you. I'd like us to, I want to be really honest here. I have 3 kids in elementary school. And honestly, they are not fundamentally affected by wearing masks all day, inside and outside. I'm very lucky. My kids just aren't affected by it. It's not hard for them. But that's not data. That's an anecdote. My kids are fine with it, and that's an anecdote. The data shows that this is actually has a trade-off. Kids with learning disabilities, kids with speech impediments, kids with special needs, kids that need to have interventions, people that are running outside, adults that are running outside, they don't run with masks. Kids, our little children, our middle school children, they're running outside, they're doing PE with masks. Our kids who have interventions, they're doing interventions, language interventions with masks. That's not fair to them because we actually know that there's data that shows that it's not a riskless trade-off. There is a downside to making every person wear masks. We can do better. Adults don't wear masks outside when they're running. Why do we make children do it? Children who need to learn to read, who need to learn to with their interventions and have their intervention classes, they are learning less because they're wearing masks. And the science doesn't support it. Life is about trade-offs. Let's think about the long-term impacts of what we're doing to our children. And let's not think about our own children, because again, my 3 kids are fine. They can wear the masks, not wear the masks, they will be okay. But think about all the other kids, not just your kids. Think about all of our kids. They will do better if they are able to see faces and talk to their teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Payal.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity to speak. And I just wanted to also just appreciate all the many measures, thoughtful measures that have been put in place that have allowed our schools to stay open, our kids to stay safe, and the transmission rates to remain low. That has been really appreciated. And I can tell you, for the mental health of my family and my kids, being able to be in school and feel protected and keeping each other safe has been really important. I did want to agree with a previous caller who made the points about testing before a return from break. I think that's going to be really critical. I also think that one of the things that's been really important for my kids and for their friends has been sort of the consistency, knowing, okay, we're going back to school. We have our masks on indoors and outdoors. We get tested X times, a month. I think those routines have been incredibly important. And there's honestly, despite what the previous caller said, I'm reading here from an article in the New Republic, there is no evidence to support these claims about the psychological impacts. I'm from Asia. Millions of people in Asia wear masks, for as a public health measure. I'm pretty sure the academics and mental health of millions of people has not been affected by that. So I definitely think when we talk about looking at the science, we should absolutely look at the science. And I have a kid who has been in speech therapy. It was indoors in a small room with her instructor. She kept the mask on. Could we have alternatives where speech therapy took place outdoors without masks? We should be making those kinds of exceptions where it's needed, as opposed to lifting these important safety measures that have kept our kids in school and emotionally, in a great space being with their friends. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrea.
Hey everyone, thanks so much. I want to thank you all for the great tools you've created, the testing, the dashboard. I can't imagine the time all of our amazing educators are putting into keeping the dashboard together, the multiple mitigation layers. Very grateful. And that has helped, as the previous caller said, our family's mental health to have the predictability and the safety and of all those guardrails. It's really hard. It's so hard as a parent to know that our kids are not okay and that taking away masks will not make it better. Evidence shows that, there's no evidence that shows that masks are the problem. There is evidence showing that masks provide us with a safety measure and our kids want to stay safe. So I wish we could stop this back and forth with this particular issue and follow the science. Our rates are still high. If in spring 2020 we saw these rates and what was happening in our country right now, we would have been in a really bad place emotionally and psychologically. And I'm sad that we're sort of normalizing where we are right now. So I really want to urge that we'll stay the course and we don't put ourselves on a roller coaster ride where we're constantly changing guidance and changing behaviors. We're potentially looking at another variant. There are signs that Omicron can reinfect faster than Delta. As much as we want to return things to a previous life, we are still living in an experiment. Midwinter break is coming. We'd really love to see the district give guidance to all of us about testing and how you'd like us to behave when we prepare to come back to school after midwinter break to ensure that we don't have another surge. So it's really hard to stay patient. It's really hard to stay the course and follow science, but we urge that you will stay the course of what you've been doing, and we're grateful for the actions you've taken so far. Thanks.
Thank you. Joel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thanks. Thank you, board members, for your leadership and your staff's tireless work as always. So I too want to voice support for maintaining the district's current policies, including masking. I think every article that I read about Omicron ebbing notes that new variants are likely coming. Here comes midwinter break. The district has noted that due to legal concerns, unvaccinated students will continue to attend school. All of these things, and to this list, I would add the fact that California is likely going to be rescinding its indoor mask ordinance for the general public soon. Schools need to be safe, and they need to be safe for everyone. And all of these protocols, including masking outdoors, is something that can help keep us safe. And I think that when we talk about things like, oh, let's remove masks from the environment, I think it's really important that we think about whose risks are increasing. And I think when we're talking about risks, we're talking about increased risks for students with underlying health conditions or families where a parent has a compromised immune system. Maybe it'll increase risks for students who live with elderly grandparents. Or it will, we need to think about what it will mean for students of families that face elevated risk elsewhere, right? So, I think so many of us are privileged, we can work at home. There are many families in the district where that's not the case. And I think we've really got to stay focused on keeping our schools as safe as possible for everyone. So please stay the course for now. We're not out of this yet. And thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of our public comment on this. I did just want to ask for just a reiteration of the steps the district will take to urge people to take certain steps before, I guess, during and at the very end of February break before coming back to school. I know we talked about whether we'd be able to provide tests, but if we could just get a little bit more clarification of what kinds of communications we expect to send out to families about expected behaviors coming back from break.
Oh, I was trying to unmute. My apologies, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. One of the things we want to start doing is using some of our features in communication. One, we know we get the Friday going out to the community every Friday, but we also want to maybe start doing some repetitive. I was thinking about this just now as the speakers were making some suggestions that maybe some repetitive text messages as well. We haven't tried that yet, and so we want to try to explore some means. But to be determined, at least those two venues. And if there's any other suggestions, we're wide open to them as well.
Great, thank you. All right, for the last word before we move on, Vice President Duran.
I just want to mention, based on what many of the speakers refer to about keeping the masking on outside, and given that we're coming up on a break, I was going to recommend tonight, and the superintendent and I had talked about it, and so I will at the agenda items recommend that we do have it on the agenda next week for discussion. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of discussion around this. And our second decision-making time would not come until March 8th. So it'll be a whole week after we come back from the break. And so there will be time to assess even what happened during the break and how we're doing in school. So I know it's not going to allay the fears or concerns that many of the speakers have, but just to let you know that nothing will happen until definitely after after the midwinter break.
Great, thank you. So with that, we will move to our review and action items. Our first one is item 11A, observance of Juneteenth Day as an annual paid holiday for AUSD staff.
This goes to me, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. Tonight, I'm going to ask for some help from my student trustee, Lyra, and trustee Dana to help me with the reading of the resolution. Here you have the background information, and we can start here. The purpose of this item is for the Board of Trustees to review and approve the observance of Juneteenth Day as an annual paid holiday for Albany Unified School District. Background information. The state of California has designated Juneteenth Independence Day as a special day of observance for recognition of the emancipation of all enslaved people in the United States. Furthermore, United States Congress has designated June 19th as Juneteenth Independence Day in recognition of this historical significance of Juneteenth Independence Day to the United States, and in order to support the continued nationwide celebration of Juneteenth Independence Day to provide an opportunity for the people of the United States to learn more about the past, to better understand and reckon with the experiences that have shaped the United States, and to recognize that the observance of the end of slavery is part of the history and heritage of the United States. And I would ask Student Trustee Lyra and Student Trustee Dana to pick it up from there, and then the other board members join in.
Sure, I can start us off. So President Biden proclaimed June 19th as Juneteenth Day of Observance in June 2021. Albany Unified School District joined other school districts in the Alameda County Office of Education to commemorate Juneteenth Day by closing schools and district offices. Since June 19th, 2021 fell on a Saturday, AUSD staff members were given the day off of work, or they received holiday pay for hours worked on Monday, June 21st, 2021.
Albany Unified School District recognizes Juneteenth Day, June 19th, as a day to honor and reflect on the significant role that African Americans have played in the history of the United States, and how they have enriched society through their steadfast commitment to promoting unity, equality, and justice. The district shall observe Juneteenth Day as an annual paid holiday for all staff beginning June 2022, and each year thereafter.
Okay, that was the background.
So there is no resolution. This is just an action item for the board to approve observing Juneteenth as a paid holiday. We will do a resolution and, photos and everything that's appropriate to something of this importance in June when we're closer to Juneteenth, just to clarify.
And thank you for that, Madam Chair, President Hinckley.
So this is just a recommendation that the board take action to approve it as a paid holiday for all staff. So I don't know if there are board questions or if someone wants to make a motion. Yeah, Vice President Duran.
I have a couple of questions for the superintendent. I didn't get my questions into you early enough, but I hope you had time to maybe research it. I honestly didn't quite understand, since our teachers are already on vacation at that time, who gets paid for this holiday. That's my first question.
Thank you for that. As you know, our district is made up of so many folks, including our teachers. And for the most part, it's our classified folks who work during the summer. And this is official federal holiday. And we wanted to honor it as we should by law. And we wanted to officialize it in a formal approval by the board. But those who would get paid are those who would work, or those who would get the day off. But if they work, they would get holiday pay. And we wanted to acknowledge that through a formal process by the board approving such holiday.
Okay. And my second question, and another board member did ask it, is the cost for turning this into a paid holiday? What is the cost to the district?
I really appreciate that. I'm going to have our Chief Human Resource Officer come forward with that, because she has some numbers that I think you find important. Here we have Marina Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Vice President Duran, thank you for the question. So the folks that work, as Dr. Wells said, these are folks who we call them 11-month employees and 12-month employees. 12-month obviously work year-round. 11-month work, typically it's August through June, with the month of July off. And so since Juneteenth obviously would fall in June, then those two groups would benefit from the paid holiday. So technically it wouldn't, I guess, cost us anything more. We wouldn't pay out anything more. It would just be, for the 12-monthers, it would just be, another holiday that they get off. Because they already work year round, it's pretty much the same salary, right? Our 11-month folks, if we wanted to down the road say, well, we gave you another holiday, we want to add another work day to your calendar, that might incur a cost, but at this time we don't have any plans to do that. So it wouldn't cost us anything more there either. And we intend to, any of our employees who work the 11-month or 12-month calendars, we intend to allow them to take that day off. We do not have any intention of having folks work, so we don't have any intention of having to pay overtime.
Thank you for that, Ms. Gonzalez.
Sure.
Any other questions or a motion for approval? Oh, sorry, there is a public comment. You'd think I'd be used to the Zoom by now. All right, we'll start with Jeremiah.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm not sure about all the inner workings of how the staff gets paid. You did mention, obviously, their salary. But let's just say there's a hypothetical situation to where maybe someone isn't on salary, or let's say for whatever reason, duty calls and a school district employee actually has to show up for work that day. Sure, everybody gets to take the day off work. It's a paid off day. But let's say there's a custodian, or let's say someone's actually needs to show up for work. I was wondering, so they're going to get paid for the holiday, and then I was wondering if that employee does work on that day, what would their rate of pay be? Would that be time and a half? So that's all I'm saying is if duty calls and somebody from the school district does have to show up for work that day, I was going to say that maybe that person should get paid time and a half for their hours worked.
Thank you. Next is Joel.
Hi again. I just really appreciate that the board has put this on the agenda, and I hope you certainly move forward with this as a paid holiday. I think it's a fantastic recognition of a really important part of our country's history, and so kudos for moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina, did you want to answer just the question about what the pay rate is for when people do work on a federal holiday?
Absolutely. So, Jeremiah, you were spot on that folks would receive that day paid as part of their regular earnings, as part of the holiday, but then they would, on top of that, receive time and a half pay for the hours that they work. So sometimes people think of this as like double time and a half, because they're already getting paid for, let's say, their 8-hour shift, plus they get another 8 hours at time and a half if they're asked to come in and work.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm happy to take a motion on this item.
Move that we approve an item, the Juneteenth as a paid holiday for the district.
Second.
Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student Trustee Lira?
Yes.
Vice President Duron?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a Texan, I'm very proud to have this finally be a real holiday. And as I said, we will be bringing forward a resolution and other activities to commemorate this in June. But we needed to take care of this before then. All right, our next review and action item is 11B, the approval of our 2021 AUSD financial audit.
This is the annual presentation presented by our wonderful CBO. And just to let you know how wonderful she is, one of the secrets I didn't tell you, and it won't be a secret now, we heard about our Principal of the Year, Deb Brill, right? Let's say right. And up for CBO of the Year from the Association of California School Administrators was Jackie Kim. She was runner-up. She was running neck and neck, and it was literally a coin toss to see who would be the CBO of the year. And so I'm happy to say in her first time runner-up, they really grappled with which person to take, the veteran of 100 years or this wonderful CBO in Albany. And we know they should have selected the one in Albany, but she was runner-up, and I thought I should share you that. And like any runner-up, she has wonderful news for you guys. It's no surprise. We kind of got comfortable and expected from Jackie, but this is not normal. This is not typical of any audit. And I have never seen an audit like this in Albany consistently in my 32 years, except when I came to Albany. And it's because of a lady by the name of Jackie, last name Kim, our very own CBO. So with no further ado, I introduce to you our very own Jackie Kim.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wells. Good evening, board, Superintendent Wells, and community. So we are here this evening for the board to accept 2021 district-wide financial audit report. By education code, the board is required to review and take an action on district's annual audited financial statement. And we have a Christy White from Christy White Inc. is here this evening to present the audit report and answer any questions. So now I am turning it over to Ms. White.
Well, thank you, Jackie, and good evening, board members and superintendent. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. And yes, the audit went very well, as you can see by the results I'm about to share with you. So I have just a brief presentation, but I'm certainly available to answer any questions that you might have. So let me get to my presentation. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see. So we conducted the audit for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2021. And as you know, that was a challenging year. And this year is probably no less challenging. So, a lot of new money came in, in response to COVID and learning loss. And of course, a lot of strings that came attached to those funds. And then, of course, just the general operations of the school district. So the audit went very well. And so I kind of go over kind of the main points. So when we do our audit, we do look at your internal controls in relationships to the financial statement. We look at federal and state compliance. And it's, of course, your responsibility to maintain good controls over all of that. And it's our responsibility to provide an opinion. And our opinion is one of reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct and that you complied with all those federal and state laws. Our opinion doesn't address the condition of the district, although if we did have concerns, of course, we would share those, and we don't. We issue the best opinion that can be received, what we call unmodified. So on page 1 of our audit report, there is an opinion paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects for the year ending June 30th, 2021. We also issue an opinion over the internal controls as a requirement of governmental auditing standards. And so we look at all of the major accounting related controls. So cash and cash receipting, accounts receivable, capitalization of fixed assets, payables, purchasing, HR controls and payroll and the like. So it's quite extensive. And in doing that, we would be required to report any significant deficiencies in internal control, and we found none. So good job there. And of course, since we didn't find any significant deficiencies, there were neither any material weaknesses. So a major focus of our audit last year was on the federal compliance because of all of the CARES Act funds that came in. So we did a lot of testing there, in addition to looking at the child nutrition cluster. So we kind of rotate the major programs that we audit. And then all the CARES Act money was new. So we audited all of that. And in doing that work, we're looking at how you're spending the money, a lot of the timing of when the money gets out there, the nature of the funds and activities. And we found that you had no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses, and again, you received the best opinion, an unmodified opinion. And then on the state compliance side, we also had a lot of new requirements, distance learning, which is kind of morphed into independent study this year, but that was in place last year, as along with all of the other requirements we typically look at, including attendance accounting, instructional materials, instructional time, credentials, and so forth. You can see it's a pretty long list. And we found no deficiencies in state compliance, no material weaknesses, and again, the best opinion that you can receive. So good job there, because as you know, the laws are changing so quickly, and you have to respond to those changes and remain compliant, and you did that. So this kind of summarizes the audit results, the 3 major opinions, the financial statement opinion, federal and state awards, and that you did receive an unmodified opinion and did not have any findings. So kudos to the staff at Albany. We really appreciate how they helped to facilitate the whole audit process. We did our audit on a remote manner because of COVID. So we make good use of the tools that we've all learned to use in our secure portal, and then also, of course, with Zoom meetings and the like. So good job there. Any questions?
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to hear these reports. We know how amazing Jackie is. And with that, so we do need to approve the audit board. This is a review and action item, but first, do you have questions about the process or anything else? If there are none, then we can take a motion to accept the audit report.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for all you do. Really appreciate it. And I know that it's not easy, even though you make it look really easy. And with that, I move to approve.
Wait, I actually do see another board member's hand up.
I think that she was raising her hand to do the motion.
All right, go ahead.
I move that we approve this very well done report.
I second.
Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student Trustee Lira?
Yes.
Vice President Duron?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
And Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item 11B, the 2021 AUSD financial audit report is approved unanimously. I also just realized I forgot to state that item 11A, the observance of Juneteenth Day as an annual holiday, was approved unanimously by the board. So thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Christy, for that presentation. And we'll now move to item 11C, the first of three building construction items. Amendment number 4 to the agreement for design build services for the Marin Elementary rebuild project between AUSD and Alton Construction.
And the next three items will be facilitated by our CBO, Jackie Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Wares. So this item is for the board to review and approve amendment number 4 with Alton Construction. This amendment will add a scope of work. There are 2 categories for this. One is design enhancement, and the other one is unforeseen conditions. So maybe I will talk about design enhancement first. Ms. Shin, can you go down a little further? Okay, thank you. And maybe a little more, please. Thank you. So, perfect. So when you see the most of the item here, about little over 400,000 is for the design enhancement. Well, the change order number 11, you will see the cost of 350,000. This is really to add security cameras, cables, installations, and software for the campus. So it's really for the campus security, and this was budgeted already. So this is not an unusual item. This is something that we planned for it in at the beginning of the work. And the other item you see, the change order number 10, this is a second biggest item of the design enhancement, which is 78,936. This item is also having the upgrading the whiteboard to be same as what we have at the new Ocean View Elementary. So this is something that we like to have a little more design enhancement, or the other like security camera is more of the securities that we like to have. Okay, so Mission, if you can go to the next page. Thank you. A little further down. So the next item is unforeseen conditions. Thank you. So this item is more like we didn't plan to have these items for the construction. It's more of requested by the state division of state architect, or the requested or directed or required by the geotechnical engineers, meaning that this is item that we have to address for safety reasons. So with that reason, this item will be, the money will be drawn on the project contingencies. So we have the budget already set, and there are another money set for those kind of contingencies, any unforeseen items. So this will be covered by this. So in total, the project will be still within the budget with Alton Construction. So Wes from DCA is here to answer any questions and more details. He is there many days a week for us, so we can maybe may ask any questions for him as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions, board? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move to public. We have one public comment on this item. Great, thank you. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I was just observing that maybe I'm incorrect, but I thought I heard you mentioned $350 something thousand for security cameras. That's a lot of money. It's almost $500,000 for security cameras. I was just wondering, do all the students and the parents know that they're being recorded? Like every single thing they do, like every single moment on the playground. I don't know where the video cameras are. Are the video cameras in class, in the classes? Are they recording the classes in session? Are these video cameras for the parking lots to keep an eye on the cars? Or are the video cameras at all the main, doors, the entrances and exits? I was just kind of curious. It's a lot of money. And is that just for one school, or is that for all the schools? So yeah, so $350,000, I guess, for security cameras. And who monitors the cameras? Is there a school district officer? Maybe a school district officer that reviews that, a security guard, someone that's BSIS certified. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know there's a lot of questions probably raised with, cameras on school campus. I just want to make sure, if there are cameras on campus, that the students, have a chance to say, whether they approve or not, or the parents. So I just want to stick up for their rights, that way everybody knows what's going on, and it's a lot of money.
Thank you. So I don't know if Wes could just speak to I think what Jeremiah is referring to is the COR 11 for the cost of the security system. So maybe a short summary of what the security system consists of would be helpful.
Yes, no problem. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So just a quick answer at first is all of the campuses have security cameras. It's not unique to Marin. The high school has it, Ocean View has it. They all have them. It's for the security of the campus, obviously. It's for the safety. And they are not inside the classrooms. They are all outside. They do point to pretty much everything that the gentleman spoke to. They spoke to they point at the parking lot. They point at the doorways. They point at the playgrounds. They are motion activated, so they record up to 2 weeks of time. So if anything happens over a vacation, basically to monitor the camera, you have to go and look at it. So there's not someone sitting there all day looking at the cameras. It's something happened and you know something happened over the weekend. You go to the cameras and you pull up the footage for that weekend and you look at it. As far as the price, this is what was budgeted for the cameras. And it's just from experience putting in the cameras. It's not just for the cameras themselves. I believe there's 23 cameras at Marin. It's also for the cabling. It's also for the software to run the cameras. It's for the computers, servers to store the video. So hopefully that answers all his questions.
Great, thank you. For those who are interested in our school safety and security plans, you can join us at our next board meeting where we will review all of those plans as well. All right, there's no other public comment or questions. I'll take a motion to approve this amendment. It may be helpful, Julie, to put the document back up.
I move that we approve item 11C, amendment number 4 to the design build service for Marin Elementary.
A second.
One second.
Sorry, was that Trustee Dana?
No, I think she said one second. She's getting the.
Right. So Trustee Davidson moved and Trustee Doff second, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So now the roll call. Student Trustee Dana?
Yes.
Thank you. Student Trustee Lira?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Vice President Duran?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item 11C, the amendment to design build services for Marin passes unanimously. And our next item is 11D, approval of amendment number 5 to the agreement for design build services between AUSD and Alton Construction, and authorization to issue a notice to proceed with phase 2 of construction for the Marin Elementary rebuild project.
Okay, thank you, President Hinckley. So this item is for amendment number 5. So in January, the board approved the site redesign of the Marin Elementary School rebuild project to be constructed in 2 phases. So what happened is the phase 2 will enhance, let's see, let me just pull this, and this is a January 21 meeting, 2021. So this phase 2 will increase the outdoor play area by 21% and improve the sightlines for the better supervision. So it's a safety issue for our students, and we were able to eliminate portables. And now all our classroom will be the CHIPS verified. So this is the item that board has approved with the contingent upon the $10 million funding that we were going to receive from the state. And the money just came to Albany and in January. So now we have the money in the bank. So this is really great news that we are able to do this project. So here is the item for this evening, and this is a $5,752,606, and it will be paid by the state facility funding grant.
Thank you. Questions, board? Or a motion on this? Yeah, Vice President Duran.
I guess I just had one basic question, which was CBO Kim, this was anticipated, right? That this would be, this was what we had expected, correct?
So this wasn't original plan when we passed the bond of $95 million. However, when we hear the news that we are eligible to receive the state funding of $10 million, this was the first item we wanted to address. So yes, this was anticipated and expected when we learned about the $10 million state funding. And this item has been approved back in January 2021. So it was expected to come to the board with the actual agreement and also notice to proceed with the phase 2.
Thank you. I'll make a motion, President Hinckley, that the board approve 11D Amendment 5 for no to proceed with phase 2 of the construction at Marin and Alton construction.
Second.
Student trustee Dana?
Yes.
Student trustee Lyra?
Yes.
Trustee Boyd?
Yes.
Trustee Davidson?
Yes.
Trustee Doss?
Yes.
Vice President Durham?
Yes.
President Hinckley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 11D, approval of amendment number 5 between AUSD and Alton Construction is passed unanimously. And our last item is 11E, amendment to the Independent Contractor Services Agreement with Imeg for the Cornell Ventilation HVAC project.
This is the, Madam Chair, President Hinckley, this is the one that we need to table till next week. There's some cleanup here we have to do, and our presenter is not with us tonight. So we're going to respectfully ask that this be tabled to the next meeting.
All right, we will do that then. Well, that concludes, so the board is not taking action on item 11E. It will come back to us at a future meeting. And that concludes
next meeting.
Yes, which is in a week, Tuesday, February 15th, for those who thought they might get a break. All right, so that concludes our official business. I open it up to future agenda items. I know we already had a lengthy discussion about making sure we have a discussion item on outdoor masking policies. I don't think I've forgotten any other future agenda items, but let me know. Go ahead, Trustee Doss.
Yeah, related to the mask, I was hoping that we could have a more kind of add some detail to that report. I'd like to hear, because a few people mentioned special education and certain speech and others that might be impacted by the mask. So I'd like to hear from, Dr. Biggs and his team to see, how is that actually going? Are students struggling with that? Are the parents complaining? I just would like to kind of include that, in the report to hear how that's going, and to hear from Dr. Biggs to see, what he suggests, what improvements he sees might, help that department, help those students participate in that. So if that could be included in the discussion, that'd be great.
Yep, thank you. Trustee Davidson.
I don't know if we need to agendize this, but I just want to make sure that we follow up. And I know, Dr. Wells, you said that you would, with the commenter in the beginning of the meeting about Seth's law, and if we needed to get that over to the board policy committee to at least look at it and make sure that we're properly aligned. But I don't know if we need an agenda item because we'll have to approve that, or I just want to make sure we keep that on the radar.
Yeah, certainly we could ask staff to make sure that our policies and protocols for that are in alignment with current law, as well as what we would aspire to do to protect our students. All right, Vice President Duran.
I just also wanted to mention that it's something that I think we've been striving for, and I think we've sort of slipped a little bit, but it's, you know, it happens, right? Give ourselves some grace, right? But tonight I kind of went over like the minutes of how much time we were spending on student focused items as opposed to kind of business, other business, which is super important. But it was basically like 30% focus on students, and I counted the COVID as that item, and 70% was more on other business, school business, and our goal was really to do a 60-40. With that 60% focusing on student issues. So I'm hoping that we can kind of maybe at every agenda meeting, if that could just be quickly reviewed, sort of are the majority of our items focus on our students and what their needs are. Just a friendly reminder.
All right, thank you. And we do have one public commenter on this. The public, just as a reminder, members of the public are also allowed to suggest future agenda items. All right, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, this future agenda item is basically for maybe students who can't speak up for themselves, but this agenda item is definitely for the students. It's school zones. I just want to give you guys, you know, the heads up on your radar, and hopefully it could be a future agenda item someday with school zones for Albany. You know, basically the speed limit of our streets surrounding our schools. So a future agenda item would just be school safety zones. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and sorry, toggling panelist screens. All right, I see two board member hands, starting with Vice President Duran. Or is that from before?
Sorry.
Okay, Trustee Davidson.
You know, Jeremiah brought up a really good point, and I have seen this has been pinging around in some emails, but I do wonder if we want to agendize the safety around our schools so that there is a board discussion about that, because there was also the talk of needing to bring back the 2x2, maybe not the 2x2 meetings, or the district urging for those. And I know I've raised sort of the driving safety around Cornell, and now the parking spaces around the high school are coming up on a city council agenda. So I am wondering if this is something that we wanted to talk about a little bit at some future point. It doesn't need to be immediate.
Got it. I will say, so as I mentioned, we do have the school, I'm going to mess up the terminology, the comprehensive school site safety plan, which the district has to approve every year before March 1st, will be coming to us next week. And for those who watched that presentation last year, the comment they made was that the number one cause of death for students at schools is traffic. It's being hit by cars near their school sites. So certainly that's something we can discuss as part of the school site safety plan next week, in addition to whatever other forums it's appropriate to bring back in. And with that, sorry to leave us on that note. With that, I hope everyone enjoys their week off. We will see you at our next regular board meeting on February 15th. And our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.